say, and that's, the people that might have like multiple colors, like, it just emphasizes that there aren't really these neat categories we like to peg people into, but again, it's just this tool to help us kind of understand how different people approach things. So the red person, by aligning myself with the forces of right and might and proving a useful service, I will receive whatever recognition and reward I deserve. So this is kind of that Martin Luther King Jr., like, the art of, history bends towards justice. Like if we just stay on that course, things are going to work out, and we can't waver off of that. Personal purpose to work tirelessly in the service of a noble cause or respected leader to improve or perfect self, others, and the world. In other words, we're really out to change the world. And the favorite saying is, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing well. No pain, no gain. Like we really have to stick this out. The chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So they're willing to put extra effort and time into making sure that things are done right, but they can often get stuck in this fault finding, criticizing people, not being satisfied, being a perfectionist, and really getting on people if they don't fall within those lines. And so over on 20, an example is, so they can be responsive. They kind of engage in the process, but they want to make sure that things are done right, but then they can also become critical. And then they can kind of become self-righteous. Well, nobody knows what's best except me. I know what's right. And you just need to trust me that I know what's right. And things will be all right. So you can kind of see how these are strengths, and we kind of want to focus on these strengths. But in your groups, I want you to talk about not just the strengths, but try to begin to understand, like, how can this become an excess? And so the purpose of this is so often when we're engaged in conflict, what do we want to do? We want to win, right? But we also kind of want to blame other people for the problem, right? Like, well, if that person would just do this or that, things would be okay. Like, we want to place blame on other people. And this is a way of kind of owning things, like recognizing, maybe I didn't handle that quite right. Maybe this is, I recognize what my strengths are, and maybe I kind of let that fall, into an excess a little bit. So it's beginning to kind of own some of our own responsibility, our own behaviors, in how it might contribute to a certain situation, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether it's at the church, and begin to recognize that, I really need to kind of rein that in. Like, it is important that it's right, but I also need to understand that, we need to get this done. Like, we can't just sit here and analyze it forever. Like, we have to kind of move on and recognize that maybe I can get bogged down in that. And trust the other person, the leader, to say, we got to move on. We got to take some risks. We can't just calculate our way through this to avoid failure. We've got, maybe have to take some risks. So this is a way to kind of take back some blame, maybe, and say, and begin to recognize how this might play out in our own personal lives. So what we're going to do, and you're going to have about a half hour to work on this. You're going to talk about it in your groups, and I want people to be in separate rooms, and I think Jan said that someone can be. Yeah, you have something to say about that?
I do. It's that my So, whoever the audio person is really slacking. Let me give you a few moments to think on what are we going to do with people online. Just think, don't answer that yet. Here's what we need to know. How many of you are green? Green is your primary color. We're trying to make sure
the top color. We're going to go with the top
color. Thank you. Okay, blue. Blue. Okay. Red.
Oh, see it again. It's playing out almost exactly like we're talking about.
What's the last color?
Yellow. You know, and there we go. Like
yellow.
There's the 10%.
Green, can you raise your hand one more time? We want to make sure there's enough seats. Okay, we should be good. So, blue are staying here. Green are going to the library with a rope and Mrs. Mustard. Red is in the sanctuary. God's watching. Yellow, choir room, Tom will audition you. And Jan.
I circled up chairs, so there are extra chairs in each of those locations, so if the numbers don't quite work out, just add some more chairs.
Where's the chair property? Can somebody stick your finger in his ear? Where's the Dutch? Take drinks and food with you, wherever you go. There you go. Devon?
Yeah, so more specific instructions. So talk together about these strengths and weaknesses, how you recognize them in your own life. And then each of you, somebody or a group of you are going to report back to the rest of the group of what you found. And you can do this however you want to. You can do it as a skit. You can do it by making a nice, neat list. You can do it however you want to. You're going to have to decide how you're going to do it. But so you'll have about a half hour to work through that, and then come back and report on it. And for the people on Zoom, I think what you're going to do is just talk about if you have your colored tags, just talk about it together, how that works out. So it won't be specific rooms. They'll just talk about it together. How many are on Zoom this morning?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay. Five.
And I'm not sure if they've all taken it.
Okay.
And we've had some people watching late that might not have gotten their names.
Okay. So the 5 on Zoom, they can just, they should have the electronic copy, so they can at least look at it in this book here and begin to discuss and think about their own, where they would fit in all of that. All right, see you at about 10:25.
Jim, folks, I'm going to sign off here probably. I'll turn the camera off too while we go to our small groups.
Any of you guys want to talk?
Which one?
Hey, Kathy.
All right, how are you?
You want to have a conversation?
Yeah. Devon, we're supposed to fill this out. Is this the date?
I'm going to bug off for now because I have to go and do an errand. So I'll be back after this part.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to stick around for a couple of minutes and talk with Kathy or whoever wants to have a conversation.
I don't mind talking a little bit, but I didn't get to do this workbook thing